We are here.
We're live.
We're back. We're live today on Shannon Fabric's Facebook page. We're back for Sew Together Tuesday. We're going to chill out for a few minutes, let some people show up, and I'm going to cut some stuff because I didn't finish cutting all my pattern. So I'm going to do that while you guys get here, make yourselves comfortable, grab yourself a snack. We're going to be okay. All right. So welcome. Sew Together Tuesday. Today we are working on Pat the Penguin. And so I'm cutting out his eyeballs because I didn't get that done beforehand, and I figured I might as well show you guys how I do it. So I'm using, these are little Karen K. Buckley's. You just need a pair of good serrated scissors, and that's what I've got here. I'm cutting out my eyes. So I traced them onto the black with a silver Sharpie, which makes it a little bit easier. And then even though my tracing isn't smooth, if I sort of turn this, I can get it to cut pretty smoothly around the edge. Give myself two little circles for his eyeballs. So welcome. It's Sew Together Tuesday. Today is a special version for a couple of reasons. One, we're finally finishing Pat the Penguin. So if you are here because you are one of the many who have emailed asking, when are you going to finish Pat? Today is the day. We're doing it. It has been a long process. We started the videos back in, I think January. We did the original videos, maybe February. And we were going to finish them. And then, you know, things sort of changed in March. And so we just never got back to finishing them. We kept thinking, we're going to do them. Finally, we're just going to do it today. So we're not going to worry about when we can film it with the studio and the fancy cameras. We're just gonna do it for a live today. So I'm kind of excited. It's Pat the Penguin, show the kit. So this is a kit that
There we go.
is available at a lot of different shops. A lot of shops have it. It's Pat the Penguin. It is a little play mat is what it is. So it's perfect for little babies. You'll see how big it is when we finish here. I think it's great for littles. So if you have a newborn coming into your life, this is a fantastic one. It works really until they start crawling, you know, and then they'll lay on it as a pillow maybe. Okay, so I got my little eyeballs cut. Oh, what I forgot to say. The other reason it's a special day today. Why is that? We're gonna turn the camera. Turn the camera, Hawk. It's Hawk's birthday. We'll see if we can get him on camera.
Guess who let me borrow her tiara?
Because it's a birthday tiara. Today's birthday, so we're making it special. He's wearing the tiara. It's birthday. It's pretty exciting. So we are here celebrating. I think it's kind of funny that we both ended up with our birthdays on Sew Together Tuesday. You know, there were 6 other days of the week to choose from, and we both got a Tuesday, so that's pretty good. So that's what we're doing today. Here's my little eyeballs. I got those cut out. I'm Teresa Coates. I'm the national educator for Shannon Fabrics, and we do this every week. We do Sew Together Tuesday, and like I said, today we're finishing Pat. All right, so you ready? We'll get started. I got the eyes cut. I had some projects, I have some parts of it done before. So if you are new to it, you haven't started Pat yet, you're not stuck here. If you haven't started Pat yet, you're gonna do a variety of parts of Pat to put it together. And so we have videos that show you how to do the beak, the feet, and the wings, okay? So I already have those finished because we did those videos. So I've got my wings, okay? So I'm just gonna set those aside. And I've got my...
Hey, are we sharing for fun and prizes today?
Oh my goodness, I totally forget. Yes. Please share the video. If you share the video, you will be entered to win, or you'll be part of the drawing, however they phrase that. You could win your own Pat the Penguin kit. Okay, so make sure to share the video. If you already have Pat the Penguin, we'll work it out. If you have one of the other kits, like we have a Lammy, my Lammy, and we have my Bubba, which are also play mats that work in a similar way. So if you have those, you'll want to pay attention too to how the piece is constructed in the end. Some of the construction is a little bit different, okay? So yes, share. Wish Hawk a happy birthday.
They're doing it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for celebrating with us. So I've got the wings done. This is the little foot pattern. I've got my feet done. Well, I've got most of my foot done. I need to stitch this one. I didn't do that. So you can see this one I finished top stitching. This one I did not. So we'll finish that one. I'm gonna set that to the side. We're gonna finish that, and then I got the little beak. Okay, so the beak, the feet, and the wings are 3 different videos that you can learn how to do each of those. Okay, they are a little bit funky. So yeah, go watch the video. You'll learn how to do it. They're actually not hard. They're just different. That's all. As I say with a lot of this stuff. Okay. So I'm gonna put my wings over here. My pattern 2.
Ellen just posted the link up to the other videos.
Oh, great, thank you. So then I'm trying to decide.
Thanks,
do we
Ellen.
want to start with the eyeballs, or do we want to finish those feet? And I think I kind of want to finish the feet, and then we could get onto the eyeballs. So why don't you come on over? I'm going to show you how to thread the machine. We've had some questions on threading, and there's a couple of things that I wanted to just make extra clear for you guys, and it isn't cuddle related, just sewing related. When you're threading, it's really important that your foot is up. Okay, so that the foot here is up, and we're just going to take the thread, and I'm going to hold it over here so it can't get too crazy. And I'm going to bring it over here. When I lift my foot, there's a couple of tension discs in here that sit together that hold the tension on your thread. When you lift the foot, it opens that up, and so that'll allow this to come in between, come back up, thread it around, and come back down. So now when I come down here, I want to put my foot down, and it will stop that thread from coming through. Okay, so if you have threaded your machine at just the thread keeps coming, you're like, dang it, I have too much thread. Just put your foot down. That's what you need to do. That engages those tension discs, and then we can try to thread it. And someday, really, I am going to get that thing fixed, so I just got to push the button. Until then, this is good practice. Okay. All right, so now I've got the machine threaded. You can see I still can't pull it, okay, because it's up. Now if I lift the foot up, I can suddenly pull it, okay? So that's the tension discs that are in there. All right.
Nice.
So that's a little insider scoop. All right, so now I want to mark my little feet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark the feet, how long I want this. So about there on here. Get it on the right foot. Okay. And then, oops, I'll mark the other one because there's 2 of them. Okay, so I'm gonna come over here. That one's just about 1.5 inches, a tiny bit shorter. I'm just gonna mark it with the stiletto, so I can sort of see where it's at. Whoops, and I marked way past where I wanted it to be. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I can sort of see it without marking anything else. And I'm just gonna stitch this. I'm gonna start over there, and that's gonna give it some toes, okay? And then I can set this aside. All right, do a little lock stitch. Okay, and then I've got a black thread in here, so we're gonna see how that works. I think on the other one, I probably did the right color thread. Right color as in coordinating, but we'll see. Okay, you can see it just sinks right down into there, so it doesn't even matter that it was black. I'll cut that tail off and you'll never be able to tell. All right, so let's do the other little toe. Get that lined up where it's supposed to be. Do another little lock stitch. And then sew toward the toe. Okay, you could start at that little corner if you wanted to. You could start down here and head the other direction. That would be fine. I just thought it was easier to start where I wanted it to end so that I didn't overstitch it. Okay, so I'm gonna trim those threads. Got a little knot back there. Clip those two. Okay. Clip it, and then I can set these guys aside. Okay. I have gray thread in the back, so you can see if I dig down in there, you can see the gray thread. Okay. But I have to really dig down. Same with here's black. It's way down there. Somewhere in there, there is black thread. So now I've got my little feetsies ready. Okay. So I'm going to set those aside because now we're done. All right. So now what we need to do is put the face together. So the face consists of just the eyeballs is really what it is. So there is the front body, the belly, and the eyes, and then you put other stuff onto it like the nose and everything else. But the eyes, the belly, and the body are the things that we're dealing with today. So I've got the eyes cut out. That's what I did, and so now we're going to put the them together on the belly. Okay, so come on over here, and it'll probably be best to kind of look almost straight down to what I'm doing. Okay, so I've gotten this cut out already. This is my pattern. I cut it out. Okay, so you can see my little black tracing lines. Okay, and I got that all cut out. I'm going to fold this in half because I want it to match. Okay, so when I put my eyeballs on, I want them to match. Oh, Ellen says she can't hear me. Are we having other issues with that?
I don't think so. Nobody else has mentioned it.
Let's make sure. We're beeping. We got there. Check, check.
I'm going to look.
Check, check.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, if we can get some feedback on that, that'd be awesome. Yeah, Ellen says we can't hear you.
Nobody else is mentioning that right now. So I'm not sure what's going on. Let me,
I'm going to unplug, replug like we did last time.
okay. Everybody give me a bunch of thumbs up if we can hear.
If you can hear me, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Pretty please? Nothing?
Nobody's saying anything. Where'd everybody go? Okay, no, I got people saying we can hear you. Okay. There we go.
We just hang out and wait and see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry there was an issue. All right, so I'm going to start with the body, and I want to get it in the right position. Okay, so I've gotten this all traced out. Here is my body, or my belly pattern, okay? So now I know where my eye is because on the pattern it shows you. I just want to make sure that it's the same on both sides, so that's why I folded it together. Okay, and I'm going to take some pins. And pin through here. And pin through here. So that basically this is where my eye is going to go. Okay, and now I have it on both sides. So I'm going to do one side and then I'll flip it over and do the other. So I'm pet the little eye, make sure which way my nap is going. It's not super critical by any stretch. But I'm going to check it anyway because it's a habit. Okay, now I'm pinning through both the layers of the eye and the body, but not the second side. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this over, and I can see my pin here. I can't even feel my other pin. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so this I'm just going to do by touch and see if I can get it to match on the other side. Okay, you can put these eyeballs on however you would like to get them in the right place. For me, this is how I do it so that they're basically in the same position. Okay. All right. So then I can take the pins out if I can find that other one. It's in there somewhere. There we go. Okay. Okay, so now I've got my little eyeballs on. All right, so now they're basically in the same position. That is a weird looking little thing, isn't it? It's like something out of like a little Japanese animation. Okay, so now I've got the eyes pinned into the position that I want them to. I feel like they're pretty even. I use the pattern. It's probably okay. All right, and now we're going to sew them on. There it is. So I've got a little piece of the water-soluble stabilizer here, and I'm going to put these over the eyes so it's a little bit easier for me to sew. Okay, and what that does is it holds down the edges so that I have like a kind of a crisper edge. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, are we doing okay there?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, let me know if you have issues with the sound anymore, or if you think that it's not picking up my mic, but it's picking up Hawk, as I did last time. Oh, just let me know. Okay. All right, so I've got the water-soluble stabilizer on here. This is optional, okay? It's really just for me. I like the way that it works. And I've got it on both eyes, and then I've got it pinned. So we're going to take it over the machine and do it there. And I'm just going to zigzag it down. You could totally just crisscross sew this if you wanted to just sew across and sew across. It's the easy way of doing it, but I like the zigzag edge. So we're going to do that. Okay, so I'm going to get this in position. Then I'm going to change my stitch over to a zigzag. I've got it at a really narrow one right now, and I'm going to widen it just a little bit. So I'm going to widen it to a 2.5, and then we're going to do, let's do a 3 length and see how that works. Okay, so I'm just going to hand crank it first. Let's see how that works and see if I like that. And I do. I think that's going to work out okay. So now I can actually sew it. So this, because I'm trying to work this whole thing around, I'm going to have to take a little bit at a time, and then I'll turn my fabric. Okay, so I can turn it a little bit as we go, but I'll definitely need to stop every once in a while. Okay, so like now I'm going to stitch over here. I'm going to stop, twist it a little bit, take that pin out, and then just keep going. Okay, and then I'm just going to hold this flat so that I can tear it out later. It also keeps my little black circle in position a little bit better by having that over the top. Okay, try to move things so you can see, I can see. Okay.
This is still your baby lock crescendo, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. This
Maybe you noticed that we cleaned it like 3 times today.
Yeah. It gets really dirty.
Somebody was asking if it was new, and
no, it is definitely not. It is a well-loved little machine right now. Okay, so I'm going to clip my thread. So now that's what my eyeball looks like. I'll stitch down. Okay, and I'm going to come over and do the other one. Okay, and this one I'm going to be smart and start away from the heads of the pin, so I don't have to take them out so early. Oops. Okay. I'm going to turn this already because it's starting to get a little bit out of whack. And I'm just trying to make sure that my needle on the right, when it comes down, that it comes off just off the fabric. Okay, we'll see if we can see that when I come down here. So if you see the needle when it comes down on the right is just coming just off the fabric. So it kind of like almost comes in between the black and the white. All right. And look at that. Then I didn't have to take my pins out until I got over here. That was smarter. So do as I did the second time. All right, we're just going to zigzag these down. If you wanted to, you could totally do a straight stitch around here. I like the way that the zigzag will make it sort of sink in. You could also do a buttonhole stitch if you wanted to. Okay, any of those would work for this. We suggest a zigzag, but any of the other ones will work just fine. And what do I have this on? A 2.5 wide and a 3 long. Okay, that's my zigzag for this one. So normally, if you've been watching us for very long, you know I do like a 5 and a 5 a lot. If you've ever been in any of my classes. Okay. All right, so now we got both eyeballs on there. All right, and I can just take this stuff, just pull it right off. Okay, so these little bits that are in there, I can come back over later and get them out with my little stiletto. There we go. Okay, and then his eyes just sink right in. Okay, pretty great stuff. So this really does help a lot with different applique projects because it helps you kind of sink it in to the fabric a little bit better. All right, kind of scruff that up around the sides and ta-da. All right, so now his belly is ready to get put on. All right, so the way that this works, we put 2 layers of batting underneath it, but we're only going to do 1 right now. So we're gonna do some funky things. I wish I had a bigger table space. So we're gonna do a little bit of moving around here.
I'm gonna come around.
Mark's gonna come around the other side so we can see, because yeah, there's gonna be some moving, manipulating, some sheet going over the table soon. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pet this. Okay, and if I pet it this direction, I can feel it's a little rougher than if I pet it this way. So this is going to be my top to bottom. So I want it to go on this way. Okay, so when you have the pattern, move this there. I cut out the middle piece, and then I have this was my original body piece that I used. So I can actually use this as a guide to sort of position this thing on here.
Hang on, somebody's saying something about the audio again. So, okay, I'm unplugging it and plugging it back in on my end. I don't know. Try again.
Okay, we're going to try again.
Check, check.
Check, 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 check.
Okay.
We're going to see. Let me see, make sure I'm plugged in real good here. You unplugged, replugged?
I did.
Okay. All right. It's an expensive enough mic system. It should be working just fine.
Great.
Okay.
We're all back again. Okay.
All right. All right. So now I've got this, what I think. I think that might be something I need actually. Okay. So I'm going to put this on here in position, try to get this nice and even. Okay. All right, that looks pretty even to me. So what I'm going to do is throw away my garbage. I'm going to pull this back. So what I want to do is spray the back of this. So I have brought a sheet so that I can spray the back of my little pad. Okay.
Do I need to go do that?
I think okay. Maybe you need to go get that.
All right.
Something's
happening.
happening.
The door.
I can't see you guys.
Sorry.
That's all right. Can they kind of see this? Okay. There's some banging and I'm not sure what's happening there. So he's going to go check it out. Okay. I'm going to get some 505 spray and I'm going to spray it on the back of my fabric here. Okay. 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 So I've got this stuck on here and now I'm going to do the other side. Okay. All right, so I'm going to pull this back, and I'm just going to do the other side of that.
I'm back, guys.
You're back!
Sorry, there was a security issue outside. It's handled.
Thanks.
My little excitement.
So what happens when you do these things at home, you know? Okay. All right. So now, just going to pat that on. So the 505 spray, we talked about it before. This is not the new can. Here's the new can. Ta-da! 505 spray. Okay, this is my favorite stuff for doing all sorts of spray basting. Okay, it works really, really well. So that's what I use here. You saw I sprayed it on the back, pat it down in place. Okay. All right, so there we go. Ta-da, now we're done. No, just kidding. We have to sew it on. But now that we've got it basted in place, it's not really going to move too much. At this point, I could fold this in half again, do a little double check. See how it's lining up. I can see it's lining up pretty well here. Okay. And I am happy enough with that. So I'm going to open it back up, put some pins around it. If you don't want to spray baste it, you need to pin it really well. Because I spray basted it, I don't have to pin a ton. But I will tell you the easiest thing is to pin basically north, south, east, west, and then pin in between there. I am going to pin perpendicular to the edge, just so I can see it a little bit better because it's already basted down. So if I were not basting this first, I would definitely want to pin it this way to hold it, more of it down as I went, but because I spray basted it, it should stay okay. Okay. So I'm going to pin it and just go all the way around here. You can see every, I don't know, hand width, 5-6 inches there. Okay, and I'm just going to pin all the way. So this one I'm going to zigzag it and I'm going to change my thread again. A lot of times you notice that I will just use gray, and that's what I use for most everything, except when it's actually going to show. And this one, there's a chance that it could show. And so I don't really want gray, or right now I have black thread in there. So I really don't want to try to get the black thread to not show. So I'm just going to use some white. Move my pattern so I don't pin that to that. Okay, and just keep pinning all the way around. Are the mic issues better? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
hear me better now?
Yep.
Okay. Good, good. Sorry there were issues. And the only way we can tell is from your feedback. So please, if there are issues, don't be afraid to say it. So otherwise, we just don't know. We just keep talking. I say we, but really it's just me. I just keep talking and talking. All right. So now I've got it pinned all the way around. Because I've got it spray basted, that's all I have to do. Okay. So now I'm going to stitch all the way around this guy. Okay, there are a couple ways, and actually, debating. I'm going to do it the way that so you have two ways of doing it. Okay, so you could stitch it down all the way around. I think in the pattern it tells you how to do it. I really like the extra layer of puff just underneath the belly. So we're going to do it that way, the little Teresa way of doing it. So we're going to put, weirdly, I just threw it on the floor. We're going to use this one today. So it's Quilter's Dream batting still, but this is their puff. So it is a thicker, it's a puffier batting than the regular batting that I use. So I think that I have, yeah, let me show you. Let me grab that really quick here. Oh, no, that's not it. I thought I had a piece of batting here. If you've watched before, we have really, there it is behind you. Would you reach over and grab that one?
I'm on it.
Thanks. I knew I had some around here somewhere. This is the batting that I use most of the time. Okay? Very, very thin. This is the batting we're going to use today. Very, very thick. Okay? This is the one I'm going to use in the middle because I want this puffy. If I do it in the middle, it's really easy to sew, and so it's no big deal. If your machine doesn't have a whole lot of oomph, I recommend that you use a smaller one for the rest of the body, and for under the belly, try to use a thicker one. We have 2 layers of cuddle and this, so most machines could handle that just fine. It's when you're sewing the outside edge, if you have 2 layers of batting, the fabric, the other fabric, it gets a little thick. Okay? All right. So let's do this. So what I'm going to do now is put this down. I still wish I had a larger table. Okay, we're going to move this here, and I'm going to spray base this to the batting. Okay, so I've got this pinned together, which is fine. So I'm going to get a little spray based on the very back of my pins, and I'm not going to care too much. Okay, so I'm going to put this over. I capped up my stuff. Okay, I'm going to use my spray base, and I'm just going to spray a light coat. So if you want to come closer, you can see how much I'm going to spray. It's not a whole lot, okay? And people like to really overspray it. Okay, and we're not going to. We're just going to spray a little bit on here. So I sprayed some on. If you ever get a wet spot, it's because you really have way oversprayed. So make sure you don't do that again. Okay, it's just a waste of spray. Okay, so now I'm going to pat this in place. I'm going to pat. The silliest one ever. All right, I'm going to do the same thing here. Spray the back of this. Make sure I don't spray the front at all. Okay, and then lay this down. And then pat it again. Okay, and I'm being really careful, as you notice, to not stab myself with the pin since it's already there. So if you wanted to, you could do that before. Might be smart. Okay, and now I'm going to whack this off so that I'm not dealing with twice the batting that I need. See, that's what I have these long shears for.
Oh yeah. What is it? Who makes those?
These are my Kai's.
How many pair do you have?
More than I probably should. Do I have 2 of one? Yes, actually I have 2 of 2 different kinds. I love Kai scissors. I really do. I think they're the best scissors on the market. They're great. So yeah, if I can get them on a good deal, I will. Okay, so now we're going to stitch this down. So I'm actually going to do this. I just keep changing order of operations for you guys. Sorry, I don't want to change my thread yet. So I'm going to stitch down the outside, and then we'll stitch down the inside. Okay, so I've got this basted. I'm going to pin it in a few places, and then we're going to do both of these at one fell swoop. Okay. Not really, because I have to rethread my machine. Oh. Okay, and I don't really, like I said, I don't have to pin a ton. Just enough to keep it so it doesn't go too many places as I'm sewing around it. So this one I'm going to do a big zigzag again. So we're going to change the setting for the machine, and I'm going to change that to a 5 and a 5 stitch and do a nice big huge zigzag. Okay. The reason I just keep changing things is because I figure out, oh, I could do it this way. So really it's not particular. You could actually stitch this down and then put the body on, then put the eyeballs on. Doesn't matter too much, all right? It's really up to you. All right, you ready to come over and do this?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. I'm gonna slide this guy under. Okay. I'm going to stick this under my machine. So now I'm going to switch the zigzag over to my saved stitch, which is the 5 and the 5. So if you have that capability in your machine, I totally recommend you use it. And save some of those stitches. Like, I don't have to adjust it every time because it's saved, and lots of the new machines do that. Okay, so I've got my fabric laid out here. I'm going to try to keep it over here on the table as much as possible as I'm sewing to keep the weight off the needle. Okay, and we're just going to work it through. And I'm just going to zigzag right off the edge. So what I'm doing is just keeping that in place. And then we're going to do something a little funky. Because I'm going to use this for the whole front, and then I'm going to use a second layer for the belly. So if you're only using this for the belly, use your flat stuff here. Okay. Just that, because I'm just kind of basting this in place. What that does, and we do this with the wings, and I think with the feet, and what we're doing is getting the batting to basically work as one with the fabric, so it becomes even puffier than it is before. And that zigzag will help it so that it, it just stays together. Then we can cut off all the extra. What I don't recommend you do is that you cut out the batting to the size of it and then try to get it to sit on the right position, because it's just way too hard to get it in exactly the right position. So if you baste it in place here with the big zigzag, that'll totally hide in the seam allowance. Okay, if you do that first, they'll just work together really easily. Okay, just working it around. Halfway there. Oh, did you see me play needle? Pin chicken. Whoa, that was close. That was a panicked stop of my foot there. It was way closer than I thought it would be. These things happen. Okay, so always make sure that you don't sew over those pins though. Okay, just really, it's dangerous. Okay. I'm just trying to work this around so that I'm not having it hang off the front of the machine. Okay. All right, working it around. And if you have any questions, please ask. Like any questions on the other parts too. I'm happy to answer what I can, because I know this has definitely been one that people have been wanting to know about. I'm going to move those so I don't swoop them off. My one little random pin in there that's not a flower head. Oops. Okay, get that out. I'm coming back around. There's my start point. So I'm going to stick a pin in there so I don't go past it too far. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes where that's at. Okay, I'm going to come back around, go right over that. And then I'm just going to cut. I don't need to back stitch because this is just kind of a basting stitch to get this into position. Okay, so now that's there. Now I'm going to do another piece below for the belly. And then I'm going to cut around that. Okay, let's see. Are you using a trapunto technique, she asked.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that question too.
Did you see that one come up? Yep. It is kind of, it's like a faux trapunto. So trapunto, I would like cut it and then stuff it. That's what trapunto is I would cut the back and then I would stuff it full of stuffing and make it all puffed up. It's going to work basically the same way. It's just sort of a faux technique for it. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to baste it or put another layer on behind the belly. Okay, so we're going to put this up here. See if I can do this without overspraying anywhere. Okay, you should have an area that's just for spraying. Okay. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Get that sprayed down. Okay, because this is a polyester batting, it shouldn't soak in too much. If you use cotton, it will. Okay, so we always suggest a polyester batting, but just so you know, if you decide that you're going to use cotton because that's what you have, it's going to soak into the batting. The spray will. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to whack off another hunk here. And this was, I think, a craft size. Oh gosh, I'll have to look and see. It's a pretty big hunk of fabric, and you can use this for other things. But I do this. Okay, I like it for this.
Could you put the batting only under the white part to make that even?
That's what we're going to do now.
That's what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm going to put that. I'm putting it underneath again, and now I'm going to stitch around the white. So remember, I told you how to do the white. Yep. So you could totally do the white part, cut that down, then do the big part. I just did them. I'm going to do them this way, but you can do it anyway. Like I said, the order of operations is not critical at this point at all. So whatever way works for you, do it that way. Okay? Yeah, it doesn't really matter. So this doesn't, it doesn't affect how it goes together. You just kind of you have to sew the front together, you have to sew all those little pieces, and then you're going to sew the whole thing together. So that's really the big order of operations. You could do the middle, you could do the back, you could do the eyes last if you wanted to quilt it through all the layers and make these eyes really pop up. You could totally do that. If I can remember, if you can remind me, I'll stitch around them and show how that happens, where you can basically quilt after. Okay, so there's all sorts of ways of making this work. Okay, so I'm going to thread my machine again. Okay. Again, my foot is up. If I put my foot down, my thread can't pull anymore. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to leave my gray thread in there because it doesn't matter. It's not going to show enough. If I were sewing with cotton, I would have to do it differently. But with the Cuddle, it will totally work that way. All right. So now, put this under here, okay? And some people want to cut the batting, like I was saying, you don't cut the batting to the right size, quote unquote. Some people have tried to do that. It's just really hard to try to get the batting just under this belly piece. So that's why we're going to sew the whole thing down and then cut it out. Okay. All right, and I have to find my little middle here, which you can see it kind of comes down. Okay, and then it comes across here, and then it goes back up. Okay, so I'm going to pin this here because I really don't want that to move as I'm going, but I'm going to start sewing on that little straight. Oops. If I can get that underneath the foot. All right, are we ready? Let's do this. You know, the only thing I wish about the presser foot, I wish that, like, when you have this lift, I wish there was a way to, like, lock the lift up. Because using two hands is what I really need just a third hand there. Okay. I'm going to give it a shot. I think that might be in the right area. So I've left my stitch at a 5 and a 5. And I'm going to stitch across here. Okay. And now I'm going to shift this because I just did that little flat area I showed you up at the top. Okay. And now I'm going to stitch around the whole guy. So you can see how thick this is. Okay, I wish you guys could feel it because it's so thick with the 2 layers. So if you have a machine that doesn't have a whole ton of oomph, this is something that you're going to want to use a thinner batting for, and that's how to fix that. Okay. Okay, and I'm not using my stiletto because I think I have to have a little bit more traction on my fingers.
Does your machine have a knee lift?
It does, but I stand to sew.
Right.
So there's no knee lift happening here because I'm standing. So yes, if you, yeah, because that will hold it up. I forgot about that if you have a knee lift. But yeah, because it's a standing machine, I can't do that. Good point. Okay, for those of you who have, who sit down to sew, which is probably 99% of you, it's definitely why I am a lot more careful about keeping everything up on the table too. Okay. So I'm having to kind
kind of give this a little tug at the back as it works itself through because it's so thick. So this is a place that if you're having trouble too, like this is fine, I can get it to come through. If I really start to struggle with it at all, I can change the presser foot pressure and get that to feed through a little bit better. Okay. I do want to just keep this nice and flat as much as I can. Okay. All right. Work my way around here. This might take us a little while, you guys. If you have any questions, pop them up there. Because otherwise, I'm just going to keep on doing this big zigzag all the way around. Okay, and you can see that the way the nap changes, it changes whether I can see the edge or not. So there's a bunch of this that's kind of just blind sewing. And I'm just trying to make sure that my fabrics stay flat so that as I go over it, even if I'm catching in just a little bit, it'll be okay. I'll fluff up the stitches. I just want to make sure and catch it. Okay, it's one of the places that always kind of confuses people. It's like, I can't see the edge. Like, I know, it's weird. You can use your stiletto to sort of push that aside, but I'm not gonna right now. Sorry, pins are coming out. Okay, okay. I'm gonna let you.
There we go. All right.
Okay, so I can see that this is starting to move over, just like to get a little puffy right here. So I'm going to find my stiletto because I had it here. There it is. And I'm going to try to shove this down as I work my way around here. So I'm going to hold this in place. You could do this with a pin too. Okay. I'm just going to come right around. Oh, on the table as much as possible. It's so crazy. It's so thick. Okay, working our way. Okay, so now I'm going to get rid of that and see if I can come down this straight away fairly easily. Okay, so like I said, big 5-5 zigzag. All right, if your zigzag is not showing up huge, we'll see how it looks on the other side. You guys can see it. Change it so that it gets bigger. We want it to be nice and big. There's nothing about this that's going to get any sort of stress. So it doesn't have to be a tight zigzag. It's not, it's not holding anything in place that's going to get pulled on really. Okay, it's just an applique is really what this is. Okay, so that big zigzag will make it easier, faster, and just a lot better to do. Okay, and if you're not perfect, if you're not perfect around that edge, it's going to be fine because we're going to fluff up those stitches. Okay. Get that nice. All right. So I'm going to take this a little slower around the corner here so I can get this to feed around nicely, since this will be the part that anybody actually notices up at the top.
There was a question about whether or not you would ever use the water stabilizer for this part.
The water soluble stabilizer? No, I really wouldn't, just because it's so big that it would be, I feel like it would be, I mean, I guess you could and then save the middle part. So sometimes I'm thrifty, but yeah, this just feels like it's too big. If it's difficult and you were willing to do that, you absolutely could. There's no reason not to. Does that make sense? Like, you could do it.
Just a lot of surface area to cover.
It's a lot of surface area to cover. Yeah, and stabilizer isn't particularly cheap. So, yeah. Whatever but you could totally have that whole middle section that if you tore it carefully would be usable. Okay, so I am back around to where I was. Do a little lock stitch. And cut that. Okay. Look at that. Okay, so now I'm going to clip my thread. So I've got a nice big long one. Okay, so now you can see, so this big zigzag, you can see this right here is like the ideal, but you can see how it changes. So even though it's working through my machine pretty well, there's definitely points where it gets a little small, and then it opens back up again. But you want it to look like this. This is a big zigzag. Let me show, you can hold on right there. What I want to show is the size of it really compared to the pin. Okay, so you have an idea of how big that zigzag really is. It's huge. All right, but that's what we want because it's just an applique. Okay, if yours is doing this sort of thing all the way around, we need to change something. We need to up the stitch length. We need to lighten the press or foot pressure. All of that sort of stuff can happen. Okay, so now I've got this behind here, and I've got 2 layers. I'm going to pull them apart just a little bit. This is the extra fluffy, so this is going to be super fun. Okay, and I'm going to cut out along here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try not to cut any of my stitches, and I'm just going to cut it. So this is where we have that fake trapunto thing, where the middle is going to be a thicker bit than the other. I shouldn't have sprayed it as well, Hawk. I sprayed it so good it's really stuck. Yeah, lesson learned. Spray a little bit less, Teresa. Okay, you could actually just pin it.
You really had the brakes on pretty well.
I thought I did.
This batting just likes
it. Really does like it. It likes sticking onto it. Okay, so we're just going to work our way around, and I'm just going to, like I said, be careful not to cut those. If you end up cutting the stitches, you could go back and you could just stitch over it. Okay, so get that all out. So this is stitched down through both layers. The other is just stitched through the one, so you can see that zigzag coming up over there. Okay, so around our edges, it's just going to have 1 layer, which is what we want. And that'll be a little bit easier to sew. The 2 layers makes it definitely more difficult for your machine to work itself through. Okay, we're going to twist this around.
Those little scissors are micro serrated, right?
These are micro serrated. Yeah, and you can see I'm using the little, they have like a little blade to it. These are my femoris, and they're a little smaller even. Okay, see if we can get those little teeth in there. Look at that. That's the micro serration, and probably some cuddle dust.
Yeah.
Okay, so these work really well too. So these are femoris, and I'm just going to stick them underneath there, cut along here. You don't want to use your big blades because the big ones are just going to stab through this and just be frustrating. Okay, we don't want that to happen. It's like spider webs in here. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's delaminating.
It's definitely like tearing apart. That's all right. We're just going to work our way through. So the shorter one is easier in this regard because it won't do this. But what we want is to have a really nice, thick middle part here. So, and not so much the edges. We're going to work our way around. Okay. If I have the big ones, though, it's totally going to stab through the other part. So this one I can be a little bit, I don't know, less careful and still get what I want. So you can see this is the outside. So here you can see, you can't see the stitching line from the first round. Once I pull this up, we can. All right. So when you're stitching this, make sure that you understand what's sort of happening. Is we're just getting it over that center part. Okay. And so if you didn't want to have to deal with the sticky, you wouldn't have to use the basting spray either. You could totally just pin it if you wanted to. I just like that the basting spray keeps everything where I want it to be. Sometimes a little more than I want it to be. Okay. We have a random pin that just got caught somewhere. That's pretty funny. Probably somewhere on the machine, huh? Because I have that whole little pile of pins over there. Okay, we're just going to keep working. We'll get there, I promise. Look at that. I can sort of tear it. Okay. All right, coming around. I think the song we're supposed to be singing is Happy Birthday.
How old do we figure out that I am this morning? Because I can't remember.
46.
Got it. Good.
Yeah, we had to do some math. It's not quite round the curve yet. Over the hill, whatever.
Around the mountain.
Around the mountain. You are not around the mountain yet, but you're coming. You're coming around the mountain.
Got it.
So
well,
silly.
I have to tell you, I took the tiara off.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it was.
I didn't notice.
It was digging a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you queens do that.
It definitely has its little push. Well, it's like it's like any other headbands, and yeah, if y'all have worn headbands before, you know they are not always comfortable. Okay,
Stabby.
so here is, there we go, the extra. All right, so you can see the 2 layers and the 1 layer. This is super puffy now. Puffy. Is that a real word?
It is.
I think it should be. So you can actually sort of see that when I lay it out flat here. You can see that this part here is a little bit bigger. Okay. She says something. If the belly batting is sewn down first, it would be trimmed before the second batting. Correct. Yes. Sorry. Autocorrect. It's a thing. Autocorrect likes to change words on you if you haven't realized. I'm like trying to interpret the words. Yeah, you could do the belly and then do the outside. Totally. 100%. 100%. Okay, so now I've got this together, and now I'm going to actually trim off the outside one so that we can put on the other parts. Okay, so I'm just going to trim right around here, and I'm not going to trim super carefully because I don't have to. I do have to trim through all the layers on this one though. Okay, so now this is going to give us a hard edge to sew on. So I'm going to cut off some of that, the fibers obviously, and it's okay. Okay, I'm going to move this over here so I can get to it a little better. Okay, and just stitch or cut all the way around.
There's sort of a back to basics question that's coming up. Why do you use polyester thread?
Oh, yeah.
For the knit fabrics.
So I always use polyester thread for Cuddle because Cuddle is a polyester fabric, for one thing, so it's a good idea to keep substrates together. But also, the thing that is really important to note is that the polyester thread is stronger. So cotton thread will tend to break when put under pressure, which makes it great for quilting because those stitches are never going to get a lot of stress. They just get, with age. But this, if you have any part that's going to actually stretch, you'll pop your threads. So you could probably get away with a project like this with cotton, but it will, if you get any stretch on it, it'll break those threads. Yeah, cotton likes to pop. So it's definitely a strength issue with the polyester and a little bit of stretch. Okay, it makes a big, big difference. And especially if you're going to do something, like I said, that's going to get stress on those seams. And so like at this point, when we sew on the wings and stuff like that, those things could get stressed. So if you're giving it to a little kid who is pulling on the wings, you want a nice strong thread that's going to keep those in place. Okay, I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hits that.
Okay, almost there. Ta-da. Okay, so now I've got my front. Okay, I've got my front. I've got my eyes. I am going to stitch down through these because I want to see how that's going to look. Okay, and I'm just going to stitch around this outside and take it nice and slow and stitch all the way around. I'm going to stick a pin in it because it's so thick right here that I don't want it to shift on me at all as I shove this underneath the machine. Okay, so I'm going to stitch around these eyes and then we're going to put the body together. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
This is the second pass around the eye.
So this is the second pass, and I'm actually just going to do a straight stitch around it because I just want it to pop up. Okay, so I'm going to stick this in here. This is totally not in the right position for me to sew, but it's kind of big and unwieldy, so I'm going to move things after I get the needle in, so now I can just deal with it a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to pop my stitch length up to a 3.5 because it's probably going to need some help getting through here. And I'm going to find my stiletto again because I love it so. Okay, now I can use that to sort of push this out of the way because I have a white thread in here, so I want to make sure that I'm getting on the white. Okay, and I guess it's more of a natural creamy color. but you know what I mean. It's not the black part for sure. Okay. So I'm going to try to swoosh that out of the way so I can see where I'm sewing a little bit better. Just a little. I can't really see. Hold on. There we go.
So the first time around the eyes was a zigzag, and the second time around you're doing a straight stitch.
Yes. So this one is totally, like I'm showing you things that are definitely voluntary, that will not affect the outcome of this project. And this one is really just to get those eyes to pop a little bit. So we're just stitching around them. So they've already been secured, and all I'm trying to do is quilt them through.
With that in mind, is Pat the Penguin so big that he needs extra quilting beyond this?
I think if you are going to wash it a lot, you might want to add some. But if it's going to be like, you know, playmat that sits on the floor and gets washed every once in a while, you can wash it in cool and then lay it dry to flat. Lay it flat to dry. And then you'll be okay. If it's going to get washed and dried a bunch, I would probably quilt it a little bit in the middle, just some tacking stitches, just to make sure. Yeah. See, I did that thing now where I started stitching. I'm not sure where I started. It's somewhere over here, I think. And it's so thick I can't see my original stitches. So I'm going to say that it's here. We'll see the back next time. I'll leave the pin in. Let's see, did I get all the way around? I did. Oh, so close. Almost. Okay. Almost. We're going to count it. But look at how much that pops now. You can see how much that pushed the eye down. That really made a big difference. Okay. So.
Can we look at the other eye?
Yeah, the other eye is just pinned on. So let's see.
Good. And then that one. Yeah, it's a lot cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah. Big difference. Okay. So let's give this a try. I'm going to start at the pin this time so I can leave the pin in. Get that pin flat. Okay, I'm going to push that out so I can see it a little bit better. Okay. Get that pin. My goodness, it just really wants to be there. All right. So now I'm going to try it again. Now that I gave myself something to shoot for. Now we're going to work our way around. This one I kind of want my open toe foot on there. I could see a little bit more. Okay, and part of this, so this is extra fluffy, and that really is because I use the thicker batting. Okay, so most of the time when I tell people when they're starting to work on this, is to use a thinner batting because it's easier. So definitely on the wings, use the thinner batting, because on the wings you're going to use 2 layers, plus you've got the 2 layers of the fabric, and it's definitely more. Okay, so it'll be a lot easier to sew, come on, if you use the thinner batting. Okay, I just think the thicker batting is fun on the front. We're going to use the thinner batting on the back.
So what work is that pin doing right now?
Right now, it's going to be my right place to come back to.
Right.
So before, I was just holding all the layers together because I knew that as I shoved it into the machine here, it's going to sort of, because all of those layers were loose between each other, like this whole section was loose, that I could shove it out of position and get a pleat in the back.
Got it.
And so I was just trying to keep those together as I pushed it under the machine. Okay. This is going to be the wonkiest circle you've ever seen. I can feel it. Oh my goodness, look at that. Like the pin just disappears. Like, where did it go? I don't know. It's in there somewhere. There it is. Peekaboo. Okay, try to get that out. Come back around to my meeting place here, or close to it, right? Do another lock stitch, and then take it out. Okay, and you can see that this is it's just a lot of fluff with those 2 layers. Okay, so when I do it with let me get the other, hold on, this one I did with a wool batting because I wanted to see how that one would work. and that worked pretty okay too, and that would work, but it's a thinner one as well. You can see how thin that one is, because I didn't have a roll of the one that I use all the time now. Okay, all right. We did it. Okay, we got that together. So now I need to figure out where the body parts go, including the wings. Look at how fluffy that is. The wings and the feet. Okay, so I'm going to reference back to my pattern again, if I can find that piece. So thank you. So here's my pattern. That basically tells me where my parts go. So this was my original body pattern. It comes this whole piece with this piece in here. Okay, this is the way that you'll get the pattern, is in this, and then I cut this out. So I originally cut out my big piece, and then I cut out this piece so I could use it. So I promise it comes in a bigger thing. And if you were doing this not months apart like I did, you would just pin these when you, or mark your places when you originally did it. But seriously, I think it's 8 months apart. Like, we're lucky I have all the pieces still. Really, that is slightly surprising to me. All right, so I'm pinning on this side, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it over to this side and pin it. So then I can get these to basically match that way. Okay, so put one here. Put one here. Okay, so now if I open this up flat, those should be pretty symmetrical. Okay, so that's just my way of doing it. It's really kind of just the lazy way. I had feet.
Efficient.
Efficient, exactly, efficient. Oh, there's a foot. Okay, we lost body parts. This is not great. I gotta find the other foot. I'm not sure. There it is.
Discombobulated.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so now I've got my feet. They have big toes. Okay, so these are facing the same direction. These are facing opposite direction. Okay, make sure in the pattern. Yep, big toe goes out. That's what I thought. Big toe goes out. Big toe goes out. Okay, so this is the way we want them put on there. And then I'm just going to flip this over. I'm going to line it up because mine doesn't match between the markings exactly. So I'm just going to mark it on, or put it so on matches on the outside one, the top one. Okay, so do the same thing over here. Make it match that pin. And then I'll be a little off on this pin. And that's okay. And I'm going to pull this up and make those match right there. Okay, so now I've got those stuck on there. I'll do the same thing here. Okay, so now my feet are in position, and then I need to get my wings. Here's one wing and two wings. Okay, so the wings are going to start where that pin is. There's my papers. Okay, so now the wing is going to go here. It's going to go all along this side. You can sort of see in here, like this has gotten really thick because of all of the, you have a seam right here, which is really hard to see, but there's actually a seam in here. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of fabric right here, plus the batting. So that's nice and puffy, which is great, except that when we get to this point, you're probably going to need to hand crank over it. So be aware that there's going to be parts on here that are extra thick, and we're just going to hand crank the machine over that. Okay. So then I'm going to pin this in place all along here, making this edge match. So the edge of Pat is curved and my wing pattern is not, and that's okay. We're just going to make it work. Kind of push it into the right place, pin it there. That's why I love pins. Okay. We're going to stick it here. Okay, so I'm going to pin all of these. I'm going to pin the other wing, and then we're going to go ahead and baste it down with a big zigzag stitch. Then we'll sew the other piece together. And I still have to cut out the back for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to pin it. So I matched it up to the top with that pin. So they should be even on both sides now. Okay, we can do a little visual double check. So if you have a place that you can sort of lay this out and look at it from afar just a little bit, even if it's just on the floor and you can look from there, you'll be able to see things a little differently. If you're a quilter, you know that if you take a picture of it, you'll be able to see even more little mistakes. So it's kind of an interesting thing that if you take a picture of it, you'll be able to tell if it's off a little bit more than otherwise. Okay, look, it's starting to become something. Ta-da. Okay. All right. So let's put this here for just a second, because the other thing we need to do is the little, what do we call that? The little poof point. A little tuft. Okay. So
a mohawk.
It is kind of a little mohawk on it. It's true. I'm in celebration of you. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this piece and I'm going to overlap it and I'm going to whip stitch it. Okay. So if you get a piece that's been cut hard across the top and you have a little bit of what we call bangs, where you have like the little shorter pieces here, just go ahead and cut it down a little bit, and I just use the scissors and cut the backing. Okay, so that's what you'll want to do, is just cut the backing off so that you can get these big long pieces up here. All right, because then what happens is it becomes this little thing. And we're actually going to sew this in what is upside down. Technically, the nap runs this way, but we're going to use it like this so that it sticks up. All right, so I've got a needle and thread because I got that prepared at least. Okay. And now I'm just going to whip stitch it to hold it in place, and then we'll stitch it in. And you know what I'm going to do first? So this is another little trick, because this is a lot too. If I double this up and then I triple it here, this is a lot of fluff. Okay, so I'm going to do the whole faux fur thing, and I'm just going to trim out some of this.
Give it a little haircut.
Give it a little haircut in the seam allowance, exactly. So now it won't be quite so thick right along that edge where I need to stitch it. And if I get a little bit too high, it should be fine, because you won't really see it because there's enough little fluff there. But I'm just trying to take off basically a ½ inch or so along this bottom. Okay, you can do this with Luxe Cuddle too, but I really rarely do. With Seal, I sometimes do. Okay, so I'm just going to come along here, cut that off, give it a little haircut, like you said, and now my seam allowance is much smaller. Okay, so now I can fold this over. Take my needle and thread. I'm just going to stitch these two layers together. So I'm not trying to stitch through the front, I'm just trying to stitch these two back ones. And I'm just going to grab it right along the edge. Okay, and I'm just going to do some big whip stitches in here. So I'm going to grab a little bit of the back, come around to the front, grab it. Try to keep from getting too much of that hair stuck in there, and just do a few little stitches up here. Okay, if this comes out at some point, it's totally fine. You can just whip stitch it later. Okay, but don't try to sew this by machine, because it really is just a little bit crazy to do. It's way too thick in my opinion for sewing with machine for this. Okay, do a few more stitches, and really it's by feel, because I just kind of come down here and wait for it to grab the fabric, and then I can bring it up. And then I'm going to come over here and pull it up. Okay, and you could see the stitches just sort of go away. They sort of attack the hair, but I can absolutely cover where that seam is, so you can't even see it afterward. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. Stab it in here, come over here, grab it again. We'll do one more stitch after this. I think that's all I can do. So the very top edge of it will be open, and that's okay. If you wanted to stitch it closed, you could, but you don't have to. So right up here, this is still going to be open, and you could come over here and you could stitch these together if you wanted to. Okay. I'm just going to leave that open. Okay, there's my little tuft. I'm going to do a little knot back here through both layers. Try to get that tied off nicely. It's a lot of fluff in there, huh? Like the needle's there somewhere. Probably a longer needle would have been helpful for me. That's all right. I'll sew this a few times. Okay, and then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to shove it back down through here and then cut my thread. So I like to bury my thread somewhere in there, and then I don't ever cut off the knot. So I used to have a really bad habit of doing that, managing that. Slide that down, cut it off. All right, so now we've got the tuft. So now, without feeling the inside, you can't tell where the seam actually is. It just sort of all mushes, okay? Which is great. So now, I'm going to stick this in the top center. Ta-da! Facing downward into it. So right now, if you remember, all of those little pieces are heading into it. So those are all right sides together. So the feet, the wings, this little tuft are all inside here. And we're going to sew these down, and then we're going to sew around the whole outside, and they're going to stay inside until we turn it out. All right? Okay. All right. Do you have any other questions in there?
We're doing all right so far.
I thought I saw something from Ellen. Let me see. What was the stitch? What was the stitch you used for the first time on the eyes? That was a zigzag for sure.
Yep.
And then if you could use Wonder Clips, and you could use Wonder Clips. I love Wonder Clips for certain purposes. I find that they don't hold as well as I want them to. So I know a lot of people who use them for this sort of thing and absolutely love them. So give them a try if you are a Wonder Clip fan. I like them, just I want my pins to really hold it in place much better. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to decide if I should switch thread, and I think I'm not going to, just so you guys can see. That might help you guys see a little bit better if it's the white on here. I'm not sure. I'll give it a shot. Okay. I'm going to come over here. Now I'm going to stitch this down. So I'm starting right at the top of the wing, so I am totally going to hand crank this baby.
There we go.
Yeah, so I'm going to switch it to a zigzag.
And we're to 5 and 5.
5 and 5, and I'm just going to literally hand crank this over that first little bit because it's not going to want to go. Okay, because it's a lot of stitches right there, so it's easier just to, from the beginning, think that you're going to hand crank over that and not try to force it. Okay, then once we get it going, it works. That zigzag too, one of the things that it does is it sort of smashes down the edge and makes it actually thinner when you sew the next version around, because we still have one more big seam to do. Okay, so I'm just catching the edge with the zigzag. That's all I'm doing, so I can baste these in place. And really, this is a step that will just make it easier when you put the back on. Okay, so truthfully, you could sandwich all of this together at the same time and sew the back on, but I find that it's too many things to wrangle all at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to come. So now my wing is attached. Okay, wing's all stuck on there. It'll look like that. Okay, so now we'll come down to the feet and we'll attach those. Okay, we'll try it with the outside. I'll use the Wonder Clips and see how it works. Like I said, my first inclination is to just use pins, but I'll give it a shot and see how it works with those. Okay, cut that thread. Now my foot's on, no more pins, just kind of nice. Okay, move it up here and do the same thing. Okay. There we go, and then we're going to go over to the other wing. So you can see I'm just kind of going around in a big circle on here. Now we're going to go to the other side, get this on, use that extra lift on my machine, get my foot up a little bit higher. Okay. Get that to hand crank just a little bit because it doesn't really want to move. There we go. Now we're going to zigzag through all the layers. Okay, just getting this stuck down. So when we do this all the way around, the last time we're actually going to use a straight stitch, but the zigzag works to sort of baste it, and also, like I said, it kind of smashes it a little, and I like that. Okay, I know sometimes people use a serger for that same reason. So I've got my big hump here. You can see how many layers this is right here. It's a lot. Okay, so it's got a lot that it's trying to sew through right here. So this is not shocking if it wants to tell me no. I would. I would refuse.
You're in charge, Teresa.
I know. And I made it work. Okay, whew, did it. Okay, but just be aware that you are looking at a lot of thickness here. So if your machine is having issues, there's a reason. All right. Okay, so now, oh, and I have to do the head. I almost forgot the tuft. That would be terrible. Okay, let's come back over here. Stick that back under and do the same thing. Okay. I'm kind of having to work it through, help it through a little bit, because that's a lot too. Just because the fur is really thick. And this is actually our faux fur up here. So you don't see the faux fur very often, but we make a bunch of it. Okay?
So I've got a question.
Yeah.
You're using faux fur on it, which normally you suggest is dry clean only, yet you've mixed it with Lux Cuddle, which you can wash.
Right.
What's going on with that?
Right. Well, you're probably going to get a weird tuft if you wash it a lot. That's what's going to happen. So if it's not washed very often, you'll be okay. It'll wear for a while. But yeah, if you're going to wash it a lot, it might be a thing that you left off for that reason. Good point. Okay. All right. So now we got this. Ta-da. Now we need the back. And I didn't cut a back out yet because I wasn't that sharp. Okay, so now I've got this. So in your kit, when you get this, you will get enough fabric for the front, the back, a little bit extra on the front, and then you have enough for all the eyeballs, the tuft, all of that good stuff is all in the kit. Okay. Okay, so now, there it is. This is a funky piece, and I'm going to have to lay it out carefully, because it's already sort of cut out. So this should have been cut out before. Sorry. I'm just going to say, you know, we originally started this how long ago? 8 months ago or something. So I'm just going to lay this out. Normally you would pin this. I'm just going to use my little magnets because I like them. So these are the little sew tights that I'm using with the DIY style board. Okay. So mine is too big for this board, so I'm going to cut part way, and then I'm going to have to move it all up. All right, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you how I make that work. So I'm just going to cut this with the rotary because it's just a C3. So easy enough to cut with a rotary and not too messy. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these off. I'm going to put these here. So if I were just using pins, I would just pin along this edge. I'm going to take this, all the layers. Okay, so all in, oh, how did that happen? That was me not being careful. Goodness gracious, you guys, I'm sorry.
I missed it. What happened?
I didn't pin it right.
Oh.
I couldn't see it off the edge of the board. So I just didn't, I didn't pull it over where I was supposed to. So let me see if I can get this back on.
I'm just gonna preempt this.
Yeah.
I know it's coming.
Yeah.
What's up with the magnets?
They are magnets. These are the sew tights. This whole board is the DIY style. Yeah, magnetic cutting system, I think is what it's called. I really like it. You can find out more at DIYstyle.net, I think is their address. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So it does help me cut out things faster, and I will say it's an investment, which is the nicest way of putting it's going to cost you some cash. All right, there we go. That's why it was the wrong side. I was like, what did I do? But it's because I didn't lay the whole pattern out. When you guys think like, oh, she knows what she's doing. Sometimes I do. Thankfully, we don't always have to sew in front of other people. Okay. All right, so I'm going to just give this a little shake. Because it's the Cuddle 3, it doesn't make a huge mess, and that's okay. I'm happy with that, so we can cut it really easily. This is my nap, top to bottom. Okay, so you can see how that ruffles its feathers, basically. This is top to bottom. It's nice and smooth. All right. Okay, so now top, right, to bottom. So we're going to lay these guys together. Okay. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something real quick, just because I want to make sure that I get this on nice and evenly, is I'm going to go ahead and fold this back. Oh, goodness. Back in half. If I can. Hello. It shifted on me. See? That's why I should have done that first. Have they all left?
Oh no. No. We're all still here. We're in it to win it.
Like, how did I get this so messed up? Well, it's because it's not a perfect circle either. It's an oval. So, okay. So that's my half. Top to bottom still. Right side up. And pat, whew, okay, technically, I'm supposed to put another piece of batting on the back. I'm actually not going to do it because I know that my machine will balk, and I have enough in the front, but I'm not going to do it. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pin it through the middle there, and I need to find my wonder clips. Okay, and I've got them here. And find my center, basically, is what I'm doing there. Is folding these together to where the feet are, and hopefully that's the center. Pin that together. Okay, so now let's try the clipping pinning technique. Okay, so let's do that. I've got a couple of different kinds of wonder clips. I also have a hole here, which does not make me happy.
What is going on here?
I had to cut out stuff, and I cut out too far.
All right, we're going to fix it.
We're going to fix it, because I have a hole. Okay. There's a hole in the bucket.
Dear Liza.
Oh, dear Liza.
Oh, dear Liza.
Okay.
There's a hole.
Okay, so that's up and down, so it goes this way. People are like, seriously, these two. Okay, so I'm going to do a funky little thing, and I'm actually going to zigzag this in place. This is how I fix mistakes, you guys. Okay?
This is awesome.
Because you know what? After this is done, nobody will ever notice this. Okay, so I'm going to take this pin back out because I want those to be free. Be free, be free. That pin. I think that pin really's got to go. Look at that. Look at how bent that thing is.
Wah, wah.
Chuck those things.
Trash.
Oh my goodness. But I'm like, but I could use it. I could sort of use it there. Like it was kind of working. Okay, so I'm going to switch my thread to black because I am going to sew in black now. And I don't want it to see. I don't want it to show. What happened to the black thread now? I don't know either. Oh, here it is. Just ended up on the other side of the table.
All right.
You know, I could say I want a bigger workspace, and I'd really be afraid how much I would lose if we had a bigger workspace up here. We stuff all over. Okay. So funny. When I had to take out the eyes this morning, and I was cutting out the little hunk for it, I was like, gosh, I hope that's not too much. Takes too much out of the black. And I did. I totally cut it out of the wrong place. So that'll tell you, I'm not always perfect. Not even close. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and zigzag over the edge. Give myself a little applique corner. So if you had some cute little tag in here, it'd be cute too. Or a little, I don't know, fun fabric you want to shove in, you could totally do that. Okay, just stitching along. Boop. I'm going to turn, rotate. It's still connected at the tuft, and I'm not letting that go because I don't have to repin that. So it's coming along for the ride over here. Da-da-da. I can't see where the edge is. I hope somebody else there can. It's just gone. Like, I don't know. It's bright lights, big city. Can't really see. All right. So now, let me use this. And I'm just going to go over this and round that back out. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Ta-da! It's like my favorite little phrase. Okay. I got some stuck down there. Geez. Okay. So there. We had a hole. We no longer have a hole.
You fly flat with the stiletto and make those go away?
A little bit. Because it's a C3, the stitches will just show a little bit more.
Sure.
But yeah, we can totally kind of scrub this. It's like my favorite trick with the stiletto. It's just how much I can hide with it. Okay, better?
I mean,
is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Nobody will ever know except for everybody who ever watches this video.
Hockey scars.
It is definitely a scar now. I think I told you my little lion has a scar on his leg too, because I hadn't sewn him shut, and then I tried to stuff him and stuffed my hand right out the leg, and I had to hand sew it later. Okay. So now we've got this. I've got these pinned top and bottom. All right. So these are right, and now we're going to go in between. I am going to make sure that my thread stays in the thread bucket and that I get these fairly even. Okay. So I'm going to kind of shift it here and pin aside. And I'm going to come over here, get my wing inside, so right sides together. That needs to stay in there. And I'm going to try to pin this. Okay, so I'm going to pin in a few places to get it going, and then I'm going to clip along it. Wow. It's some really thick stuff. All right. Okay, get those feet in there. Okay, now, ready? We're going to be clipping and pinning for days. Days, I say. Okay, so I'm going to do a little thing. I'm going to clip it in between a little bit. And then I can sort of adjust it to get it to fit. Oh, it's working pretty well. Because sometimes, because Cuddle likes to move, it sometimes will be hard to get it to fit into a place. So I just want to make sure that I can get it to fit nicely. So in places like this where I can see these coming together and this is going to want to shift and do stupid things that I don't want it to do, I'm going to go ahead and stick a pin in here. So I'm going to stick a pin in every few clips is my thought. So especially when these come together and this is going to want to fight a little bit, I'm going to stick a pin in there. And that's going to make it stay really well right here, where the clip gives it a little bit more freedom. At least that's been my experience. Okay, so we're going to come around here, do the same thing. Try to get this as flat as possible as I'm pinning. Okay. Get this clipped up here. So that pin wants to do all sorts of distortion, which sometimes is an issue with pins for sure. I have found, so there's a couple, we've talked pins before, but let's talk them again real quick. So these pins here, these are the ones that are in the box. And I don't have a box up here right now, but they come in all of these colors. So my very well loved pins. So like the peach, the yellow, and the white are what's in that box. Okay, these pins are stronger than these pins, which are the coral and red ones. Okay, so you'll see me use both of these all the time. These are stronger. So I'm going to use these a little bit more because they are a stronger pin. And I'll show you this one. Can you see me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so these will bend. Okay, these guys don't bend. All right, so these are stronger. So when I need to go through a really thick area, I can pin it and it's not gonna do anything. It'll be fine. Okay, it stays straight. If I try to do this with one of these pins, it's having a much harder time trying to get back through. Okay, so I can get it, but you can see it bending, and that's when I'll actually bend the pin for reals, and it stays that way. So there is definitely a difference in pins, and having the strongest ones for projects like this is important. Okay. Doing all right there with questions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good, good. Thanks for being here, you guys. Thanks for
There
doing
was a
this with
question
us.
as to whether or not we were going to edit this video before it goes to part 2, and
No.
whether or not we were going to show any of like the backtracking or whatever you've had to do. And no, it's all going to be there. Like,
No, it all gets up there.
warts and all.
Everybody gets to see everything I do that I'm like, darn it, I thought I got this right. I thought I prepared. Yep, it happens every time, warts and all. That's what you get. It's real sewing every Tuesday here on Sew Together Tuesday. It's reels. It is me just struggling through sometimes. Okay, because this is what happened. Like, honestly, I mean, I guess it's why I don't have too big of a problem with it. I just don't want y'all to leave. Is because really, when we're sewing, like, things go sideways on us sometimes. Like, we thought we did it right. We thought we had enough yardage. Like, how do I lay this out now? Like, what? We have things that happen. So I hope that y'all understand that too.
You just got to keep on pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And every time is a learning experience. I'm like, oh, so like this one, I'm like, I've made it before, and I made it with the thinner batting on the out here and thicker batting here, and I liked it, but I thought, oh, I bet the thicker batting would be really good. So I did the thicker batting for both, and I'm like, thicker batting might be too much for both. So every time I learn something, you might like the two thick battings in there really well. It is all up to you. Okay, but every time I learn something, so I'm glad you guys are here learning with me.
They're all in it for the long haul.
Okay, good. See, and now you know when you make your little patent things aren't going right, you'll be like, oh yeah, well, Teresa did it, and it wasn't perfect
she showed
either.
you how to get out of it.
She showed you how to get out of it, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, all right.
Without swearing or throwing your machine.
Right, exactly. So make sure you've got your everything tucked in. Okay, I've definitely seen this happen in classes when we've done things and people have gotten these tucked out. You want everything inside. Okay, so the beaks are in there, the feet, or not the beak, the wings and the feet are in there. And then that little tuft. Okay, and we're going to do the beak afterward. So the pins are every once in a while, and then these clips seem to be working okay. I do have, we'll see how they work when I'm sewing. I also have the big, huge, well, that's kind of funny because say I have the big, huge ones. I also have the teeny tiny ones. Okay, so Clover makes a few different kinds. So this is the other one. So they have this size, and this size. Okay, so these are little bitty clips. These are great for paper piecing and some other things. These are the standard ones that you can get, and then these are jumbos. All right, so let's throw a jumbo on there and see how it works. Ta-da! You can see how much bigger it is. So it holds down a lot bigger area. I love these for binding. So that's what I tend to use those for. All right, I need to mark a spot before we forget. When I say we, I really mean I. That I want to leave an opening here for me to turn it. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin because I believe in the instructions it tells me to do it outside of the feet. So I'm going to do that. Somebody will tell me if I was wrong. So I'm going to take those guys off so I don't think I can sew this area. This is going to be the area that I turn it with. This will be my gap. Okay? All right, are you ready? Are you ready? Can we do this?
Yeah.
Okay, and like I said, I think it's been a while, but you would normally put a batting on the back of this. We're going to try it this way, and it might work just fine with the 2 layers of thick batting, and then that, okay? We'll give it a shot. You could also put something else on the back. If you wanted to put that slipper gripper stuff, you could actually put that on the back, and it would make it really not slippery if that was something you were worried about, too.
Yeah, hardwood floors or something that would be a great...
Yeah, because I think on carpet it's not going to move anywhere, but if you've got hardwood or tile, it's going to make a difference. So we're going to switch it to a straight stitch, and I'm going to up it to a 3.5 stitch length. Okay, and then I'm just going to do a little lock stitch and go. Okay, let me find, do you see my stiletto again? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, let's give it a shot, guys. See what happens. Okay. And it's going to sew just fine over some areas. I know that. And then I'm going to have a little hiccup when I get to other spots. because they get thicker. So this bottom area is just the 2 layers plus the 1 layer of batting. So you can see it's just going to go right through it just fine. As we come around here, and I've got the wings coming, and I don't know if you guys can see the difference in the puff, but this gets much, much thicker right here. Okay, there's some stuff happening. So right here, I'm going to end up having, I've got what, 4 layers of fabric in the wing, plus 2 more layers, so 6 layers of fabric and 3 layers of batting. So it's some heft right there.
And that's one of the reasons why it's so good to use the zigzag when you're attaching the feet and the wings.
Yes.
Because it squishes that seam allowance down.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I'm gonna yeah, because it's so thick, so you can't really quite see how thick it is here because this has been all zigzagged down. But over here, like how high this is over here comparatively. So like it just pops up, and it's because this is all the layers. Okay. So I'm going to use my stiletto and sort of push it through. See if I can get it to go. Give a little traction on the back of it.
I heard it. It was like, you want to do what?
Exactly. So if your machine does that, it's a good idea to use the hand crank, which I might do on the other wing. Okay. Once it gets over that hump, it's not too terrible. But the seams where those come together, they're going to be a lot. So just be aware of that. Okay, I think half the battle is knowing what to expect. Okay, so as I come over this, I've got the same thing here. You hear that? Like ka-clunk. It's a lot of layers. Okay, so you can see, even look at this. Can you see all the space in between underneath here?
Yeah.
That's because the layer that I'm on right now is the wings, and this layer is only 2 layers. So this is like a hump jumper place.
It's like a drop off.
Yeah. So I'm just actually going to hand crank this. I'm going to see if I can pull it just a tiny bit and get that to come across. Okay. Then I should be able to sew just fine. Yep. Okay. So some of those places are going to be nice and thick. So if your machine struggles, just know that that's pretty normal, and use that hand crank to your advantage. Because one of the things that happens if you really try to force it is sometimes you can get it to go, and that's when it breaks your needle, because as it comes through all of those layers of fabric, it will bend at some point if you're really forcing it, and that's when it snaps your needle. So don't do that. Don't break any needles. All right, I can see another big fat spot coming. Here's my tuft. Okay, lots of fluff right there. Okay, so I'm going to come to that. I did trim out my seam allowance. Do you remember I did that? Mm-hmm. And so on the faux fur, so it should slide over that part okay, but it might have a little issue getting onto it. Okay, yep. So I'm going to hold this and do a little crank. Give it a little tug. Okay, that is a hump right there. Look at that. Okay. Move it forward just a tiny. My foot just popped down on its own.
Do you need me to lift it back?
No. Okay. I think we might have to take it out though. I decided it didn't like it at all. I can feel it doing something funky in there. I'm gonna try it again. Okay. Get that edge of there. It is just super thick. Okay. So slow and steady wins the race, right? You know what they say? Okay. So you could see I was kind of pushing, trying to shove this along. Be very careful if you do that. The last thing you want it to do is to catch and suck your finger under. Okay, so now we got past that. Woo! That was close.
This stitch length is 3.5 and 3.5.
This is it's 3.5 and a straight. Yeah.
3.5 and a straight stitch. Got it.
Yep. So this is just a straight stitch all the way around. Okay, we've got the wings extra attached, so because we basted those on first, so those wings are attached really nicely. So even if this is not a huge or a tiny little stitch to hold it really well, and if you get some maybe like some weird little stitches because you're having to hand crank it, the stitch is too big, you're not using this stitch to hold the wing or the feet onto the body because we already got those on. So those are going to be stuck in there really nicely. So don't worry about it too much if you get some weird stitches. Okay, the Wonder Clips seem to be doing okay, which is good. So yeah, go ahead and use those if you want to.
What would be the indicator if they weren't working well?
I would have more shove here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so if your fabric on the top is moving a lot, that shows that they're not really holding it in place. But it seems to be doing okay, and probably it's a little bit of mix of the Wonder Clips they're good quality clips, but also the fact that my machine has some oomph to it. Okay, this is craziness how thick this is. Like, look at that. It's like, I don't know, huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Okay.
Yeah, you've
We're
made
just gonna work it through
with way less layers.
Layers, yeah, exactly. This is just really, it's super, super thick. Okay, so we're coming over that hump again. Here's where it drops down. All right, so I'm gonna sew over this. It's nice and slow because it always wants to do something. You see it sort of like slide down as it comes past that. So if you have a hump jumper, that's a good time to use it. Okay, or a Gina-Majig, I think is another. It's like a brand of it.
I don't know this tool.
That's because I don't have one. I probably should get one. Okay, so here we go, sewing over our little spot. I didn't backstitch these, but they're going to be stuck in the seam allowance, so I'm not caring too terribly much. I think it'll be caught just fine. Okay, I'm going to come around here, do a little backstitch. Take that off. Okay, so now we should be able to just turn this thing inside out. Let's give it a shot. Oh my goodness. Look at him. He's so cute. He's so cute. He's beakless right now. Yep. Okay, we got his little tuft there. So if any of the spaces, any of the little things, if you feel like you didn't get it very well, you might go over and stitch it again. If I were giving this to a little one, I might want to, I feel like this would be a place. I could see them like sitting on it and pulling this really hard. So I might want to go over and give it some good hand stitches and really sort of secure it in there. But because we've zigzagged everything down first and then stitched this together, it should stay in just fine, even with some pretty good wear and tear. All right. Okay. All right. So now I'm not gonna be bothered with all of the hand stitching in front of you guys because that's not the fun thing to watch. Which I will get it done later, and then we'll post it on the I Love Cuddle group. But we're just gonna turn this under, and then I'm gonna hand stitch this all together. Okay. I could zigzag it too, but I'm probably gonna hand stitch it because I want it to be decent looking. And it's not going to get a lot of wear and tear. But then we can stick our beak on. So let's pretend that's all finished. Beautiful, right? Okay, it just like comes out. So we talked about this in a class recently too, that you don't have to clip all the curves. So if you were making this out of cotton, all of these curves would have to be clipped. But because it's a luxe cuddle, it just sort of flows together, and it works totally fine, and we don't actually have to clip any of the curves, and you can see it gets a really nice curve without any clipping at all. Okay, so beak, we've got the beak. If you haven't watched the video for it, I will say that it's a little bit funky, so watch the video. But one of the cool things is you actually just cut it and turn it inside out. So when you sew this whole seam, you just turn it through the hole in the back. Because it's cuddled, this is never going to fray. So you could whip stitch this shut if you wanted to, or you can leave it, which is what I'm going to do. Okay. Guess what I didn't do? Put the needle back. Oh no. Why do I always lose the needles? It has white thread on it.
Yeah, I remember you aiming it over this way someplace.
Look for it.
It's the only one you've got too.
It's the only one I have, so we might have a problem. I'm gonna keep looking.
Try to keep looking and keep the camera focused on something.
Right. Well, you know, I can look and you can look at the cute things like the pat. Okay. No, that's the thread. Sorry, guys.
I don't see it down
I
here.
don't see it anywhere, which makes me really start to panic because I only have the one needle. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to line up his little beak. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a pin in here. Okay. So I'm trying to pin through the beak and then part of his face so it will stay. Okay, at this point, if you're doing this, I would take this, put it on the floor, eyeball it, and see if it actually is even. Okay, does that make sense? So what you want to do is really take a look at it and did you think you found it?
I thought I found it.
Okay.
It's an Easter egg hunt.
It really is. Okay, I might have to go find another one. I just had. Did you guys see it? Where did it go? Somebody let me know.
It's inside.
It might be. I'm gonna find it when I like fluff this up. I could have sworn I like shoved it toward that. I might have to go get another needle, you guys. Okay.
Yep.
All right. You guys want to sing happy birthday to him? Carol says it's in the bucket with the thread. I don't think it is, but let's check. Did I throw it toward the bucket? We'll look real quick. Actually, I'm going to let you look. I'm going to go grab a needle downstairs. Okay? So you look in there. You guys sing happy birthday. Oh, wait. You can only hear me. So here I am. I'm going to go down, and I'm going to try to find another hand sewing needle. And I had this moment this morning where I was like, I have to be careful because I only have one needle here. And what did I do? I lost it. Okay. All right. Let me see if that's... Nope, that's a headless pin. Anybody else have those? There we go. Found one. Because really what I generally do is I stuff my needles into another spool of thread. And that's exactly where I found this one. So luckily for me, this one is a bigger one. Ta-da! You found needles, just the wrong kind.
Oh, you can find those.
Okay. Tony said I put it toward the magnetic. I know I did. I just can't find it now. Okay,
right,
so I've got my needle. And I'm going to see. I think I'm going to just do it with the cream thread. Or the white thread. Okay. So I'm going to cut off a hunk. And I'm going to use the white thread. So it'll sort of hide in with the belly here. Look at that. I did it. Okay, we're going to knot this, if I can find the other end. Do a little knot. Okay, and then pull this guy down. All right, so now I've got my thread, and I'm just going to come back here. So I'm actually going to start down the side a little bit. So this is where it gets a little bit confusing for people, where we've had some questions, is how to sew this beak on. So I'm going to do a big, ugly knot. You notice that it was extra big. Okay, now I can go along here. I'm going to come in just the front side. And I'm going to stitch this down. Okay, and I'm just going to stitch all along this. I'm going to take, and you can probably see this, I'm taking the front beak because I want it to kind of curve around and onto the body. So when I pull the thread, that's going to pull it down. Okay, so I'm going to leave it a little bit loose as I work my way around here, and then I'll tug it when I get up to the top. I'll sort of just work my way around to get that all secured on there. Okay, all right, so you can see that that will just sink in once I sew it on. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So across the top. Okay. And this may be slightly crooked because you saw I did not lay it on the floor and check it. So, you know, when you're doing that, make sure that you give it a second glance and get your beak on it's really easy to get it crooked, so it might be what happens, because look, it already moved. I need my good pins. Okay. Oh, look at that. It just totally bent that pin. I was like, nope, not doing that. Yeah, I don't think I could actually get it through. Okay, I'm going to stab it, try to keep it. That extra batting is ridiculously thick. That said, it's going to be super comfortable and yummy to sit on. So, do we know anybody who's having a baby soon? We need to gift this to. This is super cute. Okay. So I'm just going to feed this through. I'm taking kind of big stitches here, but I think it's going to be fine because it's not something, it's stitched down a bunch, and so it's not really going to get too much tension. So you can see how much thread I can just pull out of there. It's quite a lot. I'm going to keep eyeballing that because my pins don't want to stay, and I'm going to start stabbing myself soon, and I don't want that. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can notice what I'm doing this with the sewing though, is that I'm taking it off the top. Okay, so here's my seam, and I don't want to take my stitch there because I want to hide my seam. So that's what I'm doing there, is I'm taking it out of the top one. So just past the seam is where I'm taking the stitch and then pulling it down. Okay. Are there special washing instructions, Ellen asked. And the instructions, I think at the end they say just to wash it in cool. But I would definitely wash it in cool. If you had a like a lingerie bag that was big enough, you could stick it in there. But I would definitely not dry it. I would lay it flat to dry for sure, just for the delicate nature of it.
And no fabric softeners.
And no fabric softeners.
Big note.
Yeah. With the, especially with the liquid softeners, they can really, he's totally crooked. That's hilarious. I can totally mess it up. You don't want that to happen. Look, his eyeball is closer on this side than it is on this side. So I may take this off and fix it, you guys. But I just want to show you how to do it. Okay. I wonder if a big, you know, one of those like kilt pins, you could use that in the middle to hold his beak down. I'm like, how do you hold his beak in place? With this much batting, well, that's a lot. Okay, and then I keep pulling it, and as I do that, it sinks in. So you can see over here, like it just sits above it. And then after I sew it, I can get it to totally sink into the face. Okay. All right. Are there more questions? Or we're good? All right. I am just going to do up this side. It's totally crooked, and I'm going to redo it later because that's the way it is. So if Ellen has a winner that she wants to get us, we can do that. We'll give away a little kit, and you can make your own. And yeah, you can take a little bit.
I'm going to hold it up so we can see how crooked it is.
Oh my gosh, it's so crooked. And it's really because I didn't do that extra step. So, because honestly, like when I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's fine. But then when you look at it from further away, or like I said, if you take a picture of it, so take a picture of it with your phone and then look at it, you'll be able to see a huge difference than what you can see in real life. It's kind of crazy to me. I use it all the time for quilt making. Okay. All right. So basically that's stitched on. You saw I stitched down the other side about an inch or so, inch and a half.
I'm going to tell you, it's probably not as crooked as you think it is.
Okay, but what that does is it lets this have a little bit of flap, lets that be loose and cute. All right. And then, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll hold it up. Forgive me if it's, you know, ridiculously crooked, but it is ridiculously cute, even if it's crooked. Like, it's adorbs. So, there you go. Ta-da.
He's adorable.
Okay, super cute little thing. You can see, so there are definitely some issues when we're working with it. The batting, I keep that up because it's cute. The batting is a big issue. So if you have a machine that kind of tends to struggle a little bit anyway, make sure that you're choosing a lighter batting. The Quilter's Dream Poly Request is my favorite. It's really nice and thin, and it will work really well. You can absolutely use a thicker batting just in the belly. Okay, and that's a really great way of doing it if you want to make this extra thick and soft, because this is where baby's going to be. But this doesn't end up in the seam allowances, and that's where you're going to have the issues, is with the seam allowances, okay? Because when you add too much batting and all of the fabric, it can get a little bit of a struggle. You saw I trimmed down the fur off of that, and that seemed to help a little bit. Okay, make sure that you're zigzagging all of your edges so that you can get those in nicely. And I think those are the important things to remember, and to take your time and don't be afraid to hand crank that wheel. Because it's really thick, it's going to want to argue a little bit.
And you don't actually connect the beak at the bottom.
Nope, I'm going to leave it open just like that.
It gives a little shadow under there.
Yep, it becomes a beak and not just smushed in here. Otherwise, now this is like a little 3D thing. Yep. And if you stitch it down, knot it really well at the edges, it's going to be totally fine. You can yank it. But you can see how it just kind of sinks in here and then becomes part of the face and then has the little 3D effect of this. Okay? And even with that little, like, I can't even get to the hole. You remember how there was a hole in the back of it? The hole is unseeable. So even though there's a hole cut into the back of it where I turned it, it has basically disappeared because it's up there a lot further. Okay? Got it. So the beak, the wings, the feet are all other videos. This pat one, we may do it over again at some point just so it looks the same, and then I don't make all the silly mistakes. But now you guys see how you guys can fix some of them. I hope that you make them. I think we got a winner. Will you see the beak, or will you sew the beak all the way around? Yeah, no. I have special washing instructions. Make sure I got all the questions here, that's all. Yeah, we talked about the hump jumper. Be easier to open at the side. You probably could. So somebody asked about leaving the opening at the side. You could leave it at a side, but my worry would be where you would leave it exactly. I kind of like, that's actually a good question. I wonder if you could leave it here and hand sew this. You could do it here, but where was the straighter part is here. And I kind of wonder if that would work, and you would just sew it through the Luxe Cuddle here, or along the bottom. In the pattern, it says to leave it this big, and I don't think you need to. So if you haven't made this yet, I would think that you could probably actually sew about half his feet, and then hand sew the rest of this.
Got it.
I think there's enough room to turn that.
And about 6 to 8 inches is probably what you need to turn it.
Yeah, about 6 to 8 inches. I think will be plenty to be able to turn it nicely. Okay, so so there you go. He's pretty cute. All right. Thanks. Oh, we did have a winner. Sorry, I got distracted by questions. Somebody asked if I was going to add another layer of batting to the back, and I'm not. And I said because I've got so much thickness here, if I added one more layer, it was not going to work. The other thing that you can do that I almost forgot. So now it's loose on the back, right? So this is all loose, which is fine, except I think it will be nicer and more washer friendly if I stitch around this whole thing like I did the eyeballs, where I stitched around it here and made them sink in. If I stitch all the way around this, it'll sort of make that belly pop up a little bit. It'll also quilt it and make it more machine washer friendly, that the batting won't fall apart. Okay, so that's what I would do. With the thick batting, I would only use 2 layers. If you're going to use a thinner batting, you can absolutely use 3 layers of batting in it. Okay, that's what the pattern calls for, is 3 layers, 1 for the back, 2 for the front. And you could absolutely do it that way, just not with a thick batting, because it's a lot. It's a lot. Got it. Okay, all right, so Mary, I think, was the winner. I'm going to say that, and then it's not going to be Mary, and I'll be like, sorry. No, it is. That was close. Mary B., you are the winner for today. We have a Pat the Penguin kit that we'll send you. So this one is mine, but we will send you one like this that has the pattern and all of the fabric in it. So it has all of the bits and baubles for you, so you can make your own Pat the Penguin, and then you can reference all the videos and all that good stuff. Thanks for joining us. That was a doozy. 2 hours that took us. Woo! Happy birthday, Hawk. Thanks for joining us for that. That was great. I appreciate you very much. We will be back next week. Next week we're going to do a little bit, I think a little bit of embroidery and applique. So at least one or the other. So we have a bench pillow that we're going to do. So we're going to show about how to do some little home decor next week. And that'll be super fun. If you haven't joined our I Love Cuddle group, I totally recommend that you do. It's super fun. You can find that here on Facebook. And you can find this video and tons of other ones over on YouTube. So thanks so much for joining us. Till next week, happy sewing.